We're here in the rehearsal room for Standing at the Sky's Edge by Richard Hawley and Chris Bush. We're in the second week of rehearsals. We open in Sheffield, in the Crucible in Sheffield, and then move to the National, the Olivier next year.
And it's set in one flat in a Sheffield housing estate in Park Hill. And it's got the three families who lived there over time, a family in the 1960s, one in the 1980s, and then a woman who moves in when it's been redeveloped in 2015.
But the flip side of that is that it's really the story of post-war Britain. It takes us from 1960 in this sort of utopian social housing project full of life and hope and ambition and dreams through sort of decline of industry across the north, through this slightly difficult relationship that exists between private and public when those flats then start to become private property and sold off and become very desirable. So we're sort of telling the changing fates of the nation through this very specific one flat in Sheffield.
In what way is it a love letter to Sheffield? I think because Park Hill Estate is such an iconic building in Sheffield. It's something that people in Sheffield recognise, something that people in Sheffield have loads of stories about, and it's something that people in Sheffield want to hear about. So I think in that way, that's how it's a love letter.
Interestingly, almost everything I've ever written in Sheffield has been described as a love letter to Sheffield, and I do, which is lovely because I do love Sheffield, and it is sort of, it is in my heart, it is in my bones. But I don't think we pull our punches either. I don't think it's a sort of one-dimensional love letter. I don't think we're afraid of the slightly more difficult aspects of that as well. I don't think we're trying to sanitize anything, but absolutely, I think when we made this show the first time around, it felt in a lot of ways a gift for the city, and we were so lucky that the city sort of took us to their hearts. And now it feels like it's sort of Sheffield's gift to London, Sheffield's gift to the world, which is so lovely about getting to bring it back and take it out of the north as well.
And no one else can haunt me the way that you can haunt me. I need to know you want me. I couldn't be without you, and the light that shines around you.
Richard Hawley is a Sheffield legend, Mercury Prize nominated musician whose solo work is kind of admired and loved around the world, and who is part of the kind of the real rich history of Sheffield music, going back through Long Pigs and Pulp, and sort of influencing loads and loads of bands that are equally famous.
It is such a beautifully written score, and it's music with so much heart and just so much devastating brilliance, can I say? Like, you hear his music and it does transport you somewhere else.
But the way that we use song in it, I think owes quite a lot to shows like Girl from the North Country, where it feels like you're not just watching a show, but you're also at a gig, you're also at a concert. Some of the songs are played within scenes, some of them sit outside of scenes, so you get a kind of really rich musical texture that these stories kind of sit in.
It doesn't work in a sort of conventional musical theatre style, let's say, but each, I think that the songs have been really cleverly chosen by Richard and by Chris, because each song seems to sort of really reflect on where a character is at that moment in their life. But yeah, no, I mean, it's been beautifully orchestrated and with vocal arrangements by Tom Deering, our musical supervisor, and they're so fantastic.
Yeah, I think we've often described the music operating in this show as not speaking directly to a narrative point, but it's more helping to illustrate a sort of emotional truth that might lie behind it. And because we have this structure of three different timelines that sit on top of each other, quite often you'll have, say, a song being sung in 1985 that's speaking to the emotional state of a character in 1960, or vice versa. So it's a tool that we can sort of use to jump between those eras as well.
No, nothing ever mattered more than not doubting that tonight the streets are
Yeah, I'm sort of not surprised it won both the UK Theatre Awards and the South Bank Sky Arts Award. I'm not surprised having done it. I think I might have been surprised had someone told me before we started the job that it was going to do so well. But yeah, and not because I don't have faith in the building or the people, but it just sort of became that show that people were talking about, and that's just never happened to me, so I was thrilled.
I think we've been incredibly lucky in just how much this show has been taken into the hearts of both audiences and critics, and yeah, very lovely to have won a couple of awards along the way as well, and long may that streak continue. I think it's because it's been made, I think it has been made with love. I think it's been made with a lot of authenticity. A lot of our core creative team are from Sheffield, are from within Yorkshire. We really do understand this show. We understand the people that we're putting on stage, and I think that the truth of that really does sing out